Welcome to this week's podcast. I'm Michelle Pascoe, and thank you so much for joining me. Each week, I either interview an amazing guest, or perhaps I'm sharing my own insights over the past 3 decades in this amazing industry, as well as being in business. This podcast is for those in the hospitality industry, but it's also so much more than that. It's for someone just like you. Perhaps you're an individual building a business, or you're just starting out building a team, or you have many people that you lead and manage. If that is so, and you are wanting to create an amazing experience for your patrons, your clients, your members, then this is the podcast for you. Welcome, everyone, to today's podcast. And oh my goodness, I have got the most beautiful lady on who I've known for years, but it's really funny. We both have looked after the registered club industry here, predominantly in New South Wales. But I think over these 30 years, our paths where we've physically met in person would be less than a handful, but we always know each other. And I love this person dearly because I support her, but she supports me without looking for kickbacks or referrals. We just know that we both honor the work that we do with our industry because we both want our industry to grow as well as the people within. And this delightful lady is Jenny White from White Now. Jenny is one of the most well-known and vibrant personalities in the club, gaming and hospitality industry, owning and managing the popular White Now website and recruitment business. Jenny, aka also known as Wiz on social media, is the leading recruiter in the industry, having worked solidly in this field with her 1,700 plus clients for over 20 years. Jenny is known for her quirky sense of humor, her incredible passion to make a difference, and her unrivaled ethical nature when it comes to business and people. And my goodness, that is so true, Jenny, because as we get into this conversation, you work with so many different venues and that are very closely aligned or deeply competitive, that your ethics shine through time and time again. Jenny has been involved in the placement of around 7,000 managers and team members from the largest club on the eastern seaboard to some of the smallest. She has the passion to help both big business and small. She is definitely a hard worker, like most small business owners, but even more so, and is 100% dedicated to seeing the industry and its people grow and prosper. It's wonderful to have you here today as a guest. Welcome, Jenny.
Oh, thank you. It's an honor to always be around you. You're exactly the same. Your integrity shines through, and I'm honored to know you and honored to support you. And thank you for supporting me always.
Yeah, no, it's beautiful because we've got so many of our clients, we work with them both and we've seen them grow, not only the venues themselves, but the actual people that are inside, whether somebody who's come in from the very first day or somebody who's been in the organization and the industry for, 30 years plus to some of the CEOs. So it's wonderful to be part of the journey. But look, let's have the conversation. You have been a cornerstone in the hospitality and gaming recruitment space for nearly 3 decades. And so how have you seen the recruitment landscape for middle and senior managers evolve in this industry? And what are some of the biggest shifts that you've noticed?
Right. That's a big question. Well, that's a big question. And yes, I've been involved for a long time, and there are some people that I placed as a bar attendant 25 years ago and who are now CEOs, and I love
wow.
so much. It's just so great to see. So now the recruitment landscape, I deal mainly in the senior roles, CEOs, marketing managers, gaming managers, COOs, CFOs, that sort of level. The evolve is an interesting question. I don't want to mix up the word evolve with growth because it hasn't grown by any means. The recruitment landscape, if that's what you're asking for. The recruitment of CEOs is way less than it was 10 years ago and certainly 20 years ago.
Wow. Okay.
So 20 years ago, when CEOs were were paid, I'm just going to pull a number out, but $100,000, they would move to a club that was paying 115.
Yes.
Like that, because the gap was significant back then. Now that CEOs are certainly being rewarded handsomely, there's certainly less movement. So and that's great for the clubs, and not so great for the candidates looking for opportunities moving forward. Oh, look at that. So that's not growth, but it's certainly evolving. And the same goes with 2ICs. There's way less movement as well, because there's less movement at the top. So therefore, there's nowhere for these guys.
Yes.
And it is hard to move from a really good salary with a really good board to something else. So the openings are obviously going to be a lot less. And 20 years ago or so, and even 15 years ago, maybe 10 years ago, if you were say a duty manager or an operations manager for a small club, to get to the next stage, you'd be happy to go regionally, from city to regional, or from regional to regional, get more experience. The clubs, I guess, were so maybe the wrong word, a lot easier to run 20 years ago. Not easier, more simple, I guess, to run. So, and there was a lot of support out there. So a duty manager or operations manager would go to X, Y, and Z regional club, a year, 2 years, come back into the city and get their next step up. That's often worked, or go from regional club to regional club and work their way up.
Yes.
But the problem is, it doesn't happen anymore for multiple reasons. People don't really want to go regionally anymore. People don't want to move from the club they're actually at the moment for the reasons above. They're being paid well, they've got a good board, they've settled in that town. And it's very hard to go to a regional club and then come back into the city because there's no openings. So what does someone do? They just don't leave.
Yes.
So that has certainly evolved in, and not so good for the regional clubs. So gone are those days where regional clubs, get that general manager experience with someone and then find another person, just hasn't happened. So yeah, that it's evolved, not grown.
Yeah, and how unusual, because look, I'll be honest, I started to think, looking around the landscape and in myself in the mirror, we've been in this industry for so long, that I had started to assume, and obviously now wrongly, Jenny, that over the next couple of years, well, definitely over the next 5 to 10 years, we'd start to see a lot of movement, because those CEOs would start to leave, because of age and having the lifestyle that they want to enjoy before we're all on Zimmer frames. And so you don't see that. Are you seeing that?
I do see that will happen.
Yeah.
And I know it will happen. I obviously talked to a lot of these CEOs already. So, age-wise, those that are sort of 60 to 65, when they're staying also because they're on really good money and a really good environment and a really good board generally. So they're staying a few more years than they normally would have, because it's a significant amount to add to their to their retirement. And some of the CEOs of certainly the bigger clubs say to me, what would I do if I retired? So that's the thing. But yes, there is a clump of managers, is that a collective word? A clump of managers that are teetering on that retirement from now to the next 5 years. A portion of those are already in place for the 2IC to go into that role.
Right.
And a portion will go out to market. But I guess many CEOs have someone in the wings ready to get there. So yes, that will change, but it hasn't at the moment. But it's about to. We all know that that sort of generation of 60, 63 and above are ready to.
Yes.
So I know managers that are 72 and still just renewing their contract for another 3 years because they don't know what to do without their role.
Yeah, we can't all be playing in the bingo halls.
That's right.
But it is thinking about that succession planning as well, having that 2IC, but then you also don't want to leave it too long, because they may get an opportunity or think themselves, I want to do something else, and then they leave and you're stuck.
Yeah, that And if there's a change in board, so if you've groomed, this has happened a couple of times, if you've groomed your 2IC to be the CEO, change in board, change in president, change in culture, and you don't get that gig, it goes to market and you don't get it. It's really volatile, sitting there in the wings waiting and thinking that it's yours and
Yes.
being promised that it's yours.
Mm.
And then the board go to market and it doesn't fall to you. I mean, that's very difficult for
Yes.
a 2IC to get their head around, and that has happened multiple times over the past few years.
And it's disappointing, but it's also, they've got that opportunity boards to go, well, let's go out to market and see who else is in there. And, taking away from, well, you've been here for X amount of years and you've been promised, but we have to be fair and see what's out there. So it's going to be an interesting landscape. So you've placed over 7,000. Oh, that is just amazing, and I love what you said right at the start, Jenny, how some of them, that was a bar person perhaps right at the start, and now they're CEOs. And I'm like that sometimes too. I think, it was that young boy or girl that I trained, when they were picking up glasses and now they're at CEOs. And that is this beautiful part of being in the industry for so long. And I don't know what your outside world is outside clubs, but if you talk to other people, other associations, and you say, oh, I just work with this industry. They go, really? Like you've really wanted to niche that deep into something? And I said, yeah. I mean, do you feel the same that it was just beautiful that we did that?
I I am, as I said, before, I'm really honored to work with the one
Mm,
industry. But the reason my company is successful is because it's niche. If
yes.
I was if I was just doing CFOs, for instance, that would
Mm,
be very, very difficult because I'm not going to know and understand every company that every candidate CFO is coming from. Whereas
yes.
in the clubs, you can talk about any club and I'll have a fair indication about what that
Mm,
club's about, and certainly the people and the culture and who
yes.
their CEO is. It's fabulous. It's why it works for me. It's the niche and the knowledge that I have about people, boards, the club. Even when I'm interviewing this, if I didn't understand gaming, it would be very, very difficult for me to ask questions about
Yes.
gaming and
Yes.
know whether these people are sort of above board. So
Mm.
niche is the only way I could do it. I did actually try to pop out into the pub industry about 10 years ago. And that was like, oh, I didn't realize until I was sort of into it for 6 months or so. Actually, it's a different industry.
It is, yes, yeah. Same,
So,
same as casinos. I remember, oh, look, it probably a good 15 years ago now. Two pub owners approached me to do mystery shopping. Oh my goodness, never again. And look, pubs were very different back then,
yeah.
but it's a whole different environment, and I certainly didn't mind, customizing their reports, but it was even very difficult for my employees to go out and do the reports because in a club you're looking for a whole lot of different things
Yeah,
and
sure.
and you can sort of hide in different places. But once again, it was like, no, I just love my clubs. We just work with them and we just drill deeper and deeper and deeper, which is so important. But when now I've gone totally off topic. How unusual. Um, you were talking before about that regional and city area, those whereas once before, Jenny, they would be happy to go out to regional areas, get that ability to learn all the ropes of a small club, then come back into the city. You're not seeing that as much. And
Uh,
that's just, yeah.
Not at all. There's out of a say 100, there might be one or two where they can be lucky and get that.
Wow.
The biggest challenge that I see in the industry at the moment for clubs. I'm not talking about gaming tax or any of these. I'm talking about actually the viability of a club is the regionals not being able to find a CEO. I have had, I've just dealt with so many clubs at the moment. We just can't find anyone. You'll advertise, you'll talk to people. One club, quite regional in a town with maybe 15,000 people, had eight applicants of only one that actually had any sort of skills to do the job. Just another one in Riverina area, regional. I think there were 4 applicants. And again, this isn't for qualified, experienced club managers. This is the, mechanic from somewhere, because they're still applying for these sort of things. It is the biggest problem. I have been speaking to CEOs of, regional bigger clubs, and talking to them about what we can do. And we've thrown ideas backwards and forwards, like, how do we deal with this? We've talked about, one of the big club CEOs suggested having a program called Adopt a Club, where a big club adopts a smaller club, or a bunch of smaller clubs. But, you're looking after 2 licenses, your liability doubles. And then how do you convince, say, your duty manager to go to that town for 6 months or 4 months when they've got a family or this sort of stuff?
Yeah.
And even if it's in your local area and the drive is only an hour, that duty manager or operations manager was employed by, let's say, Bathurst RSL, to work at Bathurst RSL. They didn't sign up to do 6 months at X, Y, and Z, an hour and a half away. So we've talked, I've been back and forth how to deal with this. I have a Band-Aid option, which is I've been using for the last few years, which is advertise, find, source, look, can't find anyone, put a temp manager in there. Then the temp manager really works out what sort of person can run this. Then maybe we put on a senior bar supervisor, and that temp manager then trains that person as much as possible. Then the club Facebook group that I run with has about 1,200 club managers, CEOs in it. We in that little hub, we have something called the buddy up system, where I will just put a shout out, who can buddy up, what's the experienced managers can buddy up, we need a couple. And people put their hands up. This is all free. And then I allocate a CEO to that little regional club just to help that bar supervisor who's coming the way up with anything they need to do. Like, it's a Band-Aid system, but that honestly, it's a Band-Aid system. It's not the answer, because these clubs, these hubs of the community are being less of a hub of a community at the moment, because they can't find a manager. The board try and run it. The board don't know how to run it. They're not compliant. They do their best. They got these board members sometimes put their heart and soul in it, but the profitability is, the clubs start trading insolvent. They're not. People don't want to go to the little community club anymore because it's tired and they don't have the money to fix anything, and they've got the oldest gaming machines and all this sort of stuff. So it's this catch-22 where I don't know the answer. I've reached out to Clubs New South Wales, and hopefully they'll be on board with something. And if that doesn't suit, then I'm going to sort of talk to club CEOs of regionals and see if there's any other option, because I have multiple clubs that, just one up in the sort of northern rivers area. I ran a whole process. There were a couple of reasonable candidates, but they wanted the candidate to live in the town, and the only candidate that was actually right for the job lived an hour away, and the board said no, they wanted them in the town. So there's all these things, but so the big challenge is the regionals. They've got to look outside the square and not get hospitality people if there's no one, but get someone in to train them, or a serious thought about amalgamation, and not amalgamation because they're running badly, amalgamation because they need the support of a bigger entity that can supply resources to them. That's not the option everyone wants by any means, and I don't think it's like the number one option either, but I think they've got to got to look at something like that to survive. And I really need an answer.
Yes.
Before I die, I'm going to solve the challenge of these regional clubs not being able to find anyone. And there are so many just floating without a manager.
Yeah, and it's so sad because we know that every time there is a disaster, every time there is a celebration, people go to the local little club that whether it's a little bolo or maybe an ex-serviceman's club, that's where they gather, and it is a part of the community where people can go, they can feel safe and secure. So losing those, particularly in regional areas, is so sad because it's usually also a hub where people, if there's a charity or there's something sad's happened in town, they come together. But it's quite interesting. I was even speaking to those in the medical profession the other day, and even police. And whereas once before, there were many industries that you had to do your term out in the regional areas before you, and teachers included, came into the city, and then you'd have your choice. It would be wonderful to have that opportunity, but unfortunately, we can't force people. It's not as though we can have a government legislation, but it's just such a shame because I think regional areas, like I've worked down with the Euston Club down there outside of Mildura, down at Moama Bowling Club. Look, I'll be honest, I was blown away when I saw the size of those clubs, Jenny. They're
Yes.
just huge.
Yeah, but the problem is you've got those big ones like a Tuke and Moama RSL, Moama Bowling Club, but then you'll have a little tiny one as well trying to survive, and the community is not supporting that little club anymore because the big clubs are so damn good. And rightly so, I guess. But these regionals need the support of the community, but it's a catch-22. Why would the community go to a club that's tired, old, not run well?
That's right. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
But the other club 20 minutes away. So
yeah, it's not an easy question that we can find an answer for today. But anybody listening, there are lots of jobs out there, as you're saying, in regional areas, and the cost of living is horrific in Sydney. So if your children are young or if you don't have a family, get out there and try regional, because it's a beautiful way to live out in the country. It's just finding the right place. Given the challenges the hospitality and gaming industry has faced over the past few years, how has the candidate pool changed? Are there new motivations or expectations from candidates that businesses should be aware of?
yes, there are. I'm going to talk about salary a little bit here. Now, yesterday, I released the 2024 club salary report. Yesterday was the 3rd of October. Today is the 4th as the time of recording. And that was a 400-page document. And there was about 130 clubs involved in that with 80 positions surveyed. It was a big one. Gave me and all those clubs participating a wealth of knowledge. But some of the key areas, about that were the salary package requests. And I see it all the time, obviously in recruitment. A club board will say to me, I've got a club at the moment a regional looking for a secretary manager. I got them to change the name to club manager, but they're paying between 70 and 90,000 plus super. Now, duty managers are on more than that. So it's very hard to get the boards to see that this landscape has now changed, that the expectations of candidates are a lot higher. So it is the salary package request is the big thing, because to move somewhere, it's got to be really worthwhile for somebody, which is difficult. The industry is also, the motivations has changed within each club, the expectations in the medium and larger clubs. It used to be the pay scale used to be the CEO was on the most, then the operations manager and the CFO were on the next level, and then duty managers, and then you had sort of lower paid marketing managers, lower paid HR managers sort of down here. What's changed, and I can certainly pull out that data from this salary survey, is the emphasis that the clubs now place on human resources, marketing managers and loyalty managers. I mean,
Yes.
you know
Yeah.
why all of this, CFOs and commercial managers.
Mm.
That's that's the change. The expectations of those people in those positions and new ones, if you're coming in, if you're advertising, it used to be paid here. Now we're talking here.
Yeah.
And right, won't talk about the salaries, but the weighting on those positions has significantly changed for a good reason. Like what HR does to a business is you it's amazing. Same
Yeah.
with marketing and loyalty. I mean, marketing is pretty much there to bring revenue in. So
Mm.
now the clubs are putting massive weighting on this, and the salaries are the
Yeah.
expectation is super high. CFOs, I'm not talking accountants, I'm talking CFOs that actually add value to the business by making recommendations, by looking for opportunities. The weighting on them is so enormous. And commercial managers, those that are looking at diversifying business opportunities out there, project management of whatever it is, that's where the expectation has changed. And the movement of CEOs, I think the motivation. I did a poll a couple of years ago it was, but nothing's changed. In fact, it's got more. Is in that club managers Facebook group that I help run. I did a poll to ask what reason a CEO would move from one to another, and there was a whole list of things. A great supportive board, the salary, where the club was, education opportunities. There are all these sort of lists. And what actually came out, not surprisingly, but importantly, is that a CEO, first and foremost, will only move where a board of directors is supportive and cohesive, working as one.
Yeah.
They will not move
Mm.
if a board is not supportive. And no surprises there. And also, this is the reason a lot of people are still not moving.
Mm.
And I don't know what's happened. I'm trying to put this in the nicest way because I have so much respect for so many boards and so many board members. After the COVID times, we've had a lot of challenges within the industry with CEOs being overly pressured by boards,
Mm.
boards moving their CEOs, their quality CEOs on.
Mm.
That's another massive challenge at the moment that hopefully Clubs New South Wales can assist with.
Mm.
But I might talk about that a bit later. I'll get myself into trouble right now. So,
But look, I agree with you. We're seeing some large changes, and you can't blame people. I mean, if they've already got a really good board, a board that is not only business savvy, but also understand that it's not all about the schooner price going up. And I am saying that with tongue in cheek, but this is big business now, clubs. This is no longer just a small little, a group of people that can make a decision. And even though those volunteers in the past have been wonderful, the business acumen has to be very much 100% now, and they are still volunteers, and they're having to spend a lot of time learning the process, but it's also the governance of boards. So there's so much for them to do that you can't blame a CEO going, well, why would I leave this really great board that not only support me, but are thinking into the future, have got great ideas, to go to a venue where they may be able to change some of their ideas, but that's that old saying, a leopard never changes its spot. So what would make you feel that you could do it? And you're bumping your head up against a wall. And I think you're right. I think, Clubs New South Wales or somebody somewhere has to step in and say, is this sometimes there's personality differences. We don't like everybody in this world, do we, Jenny? Or they don't always like us. But is that just for perhaps a 2-year period while that person or those people are on that board? And then when they go, they've now lost a really good CEO that the majority now would love to have back, but that person's gone on. So it's very much this, very much a personal contention, I feel, more so than their ability as a CEO, isn't it?
Very much so.
Yeah, which is so disappointing. But as you said, we could go into that rabbit hole, but we've got to be mindful.
Yeah.
But there are still some wonderful volunteers that go onto our boards, but I'm also seeing less and less diversity on the boards when we're trying to push more and more diversity, because I don't know about you, Jen, but do you want to be on a board? Have you got the time to be on a board?
It was funny. I was only saying to a board member of a club the other day that I had been asked to go on 3 different boards over the past probably 8 years.
Mm.
It's not for me.
No, and I'm the same. Look, I'd love to help. I'd love to be a volunteer, but I know when people have asked me to go on their club boards, I've said the same thing. And I have thought to myself, why would I want to put myself into a room with people that aren't perhaps in really invested in the culture and the good of the people, And I'm not.
And the charter of that club, the reason that
Yeah.
club exists,
Yeah,
many are and many aren't.
Oh, yes. And the ones that are fantastic are wonderful. And that's where you don't blame a CEO or even their team from wanting to move on, because they think, well, look, we've got a great board, we're working well together towards that vision.
Yeah.
With so much focus on that organization, culture, and we talk about that a lot, these days, how can hospitality and gaming venues therefore differentiate themselves to attract and retain that high caliber manager who aligns with their values and long-term vision? And I'll just say this, the other week I was talking to someone, I don't know whether it was at a conference, as you've noted before, I'm darting around from left and right, and we're talking about organizational culture. And I know even myself is, let's look at your culture when we're employing them. Let's, be part of that. Then I started to think, what's happening? We're creating a culture that has no diversity in thought. They're all thinking along the same lines. They're all doing the same thing. And, we've seen this happen in other organizations or even aspects in our life, that we only then, without any other diversity in thought, we all start to look from the inside out and go, oh, they're all wrong. We're the only ones that are right. So then I started to think to myself, Jenny, what else are we looking for when it comes to culture? And it's something that I've always believed in, and I know you have right from the very start, and that's your values. It's your values of your business. Are those values congruent with those that are joining the team? That, yes, I know that makes up the culture, but to me, it's even bigger than the culture, because with those values, you may still have that diversity of thought, but they've still got those underpinning values. What are your thoughts
Yeah.
about? Yeah.
Uh, with, I guess we've got a couple of questions here. One about finding the right fit, and one about, the original question you asked me was about attracting high caliber managers.
Yes.
And then we're talking about fit. So I'm going to answer both questions at once. If I talk about values and culture, which is the second part of your question, I think obviously hiring for culture fit is what we've all got to do. And to me, I'd like to look for what the boards and the club's goals and the people's goals are in the business, and what the dreams and goals are of the person. And if they're not aligned, that's okay. I actually think, this is probably just a personal thing, that if the values are the same, that it's for the good of the people, it's about customer service, it's about caring for others, it's about lifting and supporting others, those sort of values. If someone has a different dream and goal, and I'm not talking about club strategy, I'm talking about personal goals, personal dreams, and they're not the same as the club, why can't you take them on?
Yes.
And the club supports those dreams and goals. Now, I know that if you've got someone and you support what they want to do, they're going to love you and stay forever and do the best they possibly can. So that's I guess my thoughts on hiring, like the fit and the culture is, are the values there? Let's talk about that. Now, let's talk about your dreams and your goals and what you want. Yeah, we can work with that. We'll just change our mindset a little bit to, if you want that, we'll make that happen. It'll be good for the business anyway. So when a club's interviewing, I think, for whatever level, it'd be really good to spend only 5 or 10% of the time interviewing on the skills.
Yeah.
Spend more time on the vision that they have, what success means to them, what the person's goals are, what their dreams are. And then the balance of that is all about the values match.
Yes.
Don't turn someone down just because they don't match you exactly for what what your job description actually said.
Yeah.
Listen to their dreams and goals, employ them knowing that what their dreams and goals are, and help them reach their goals and train them in the bit of those little gaps that they were missing in the first place.
Yes.
If and if you if you hire someone just because they can, they know how to do a Z read on a till, they know how to, tap a keg, whatever it might be, they tick those boxes, but they're the wrong culture fit.
Yeah.
It'll throw the whole dynamics of the organization, the whole team, and the cost of
Yes.
that is just ridiculously high. So, you know, get a bit of a give a bit of leeway with some of the skills and put more emphasis on dreams and goals and what they can bring and their value.
Yes.
Sorry, long answer to the question.
No, it was perfect because, you know, it's getting people to think differently. It's that different mind shift, isn't it? In what you need, yes, but how much could we develop someone? And I think, I know since coming out of COVID, that's been my main focus is developing those leaders from within. But the different generations are looking for different things too. So they will have different goals. They will have different expectations. Going back to your salary packages, it could be benefits. Are you able to give them a house if they're in a regional area or at a reduced rent, or if at no rent at all? Or are there childcare? Or, all those little things that perhaps we didn't do in the past, but we're realizing we need to do now. And then, we develop them from within our own venue or within our own region for them to stay with us. Yeah.
Yeah. I was talking to a chef only yesterday, and he and his wife have a child with autism, and quite an extreme. And that the kid is in a specialist school, and the wife who's a cook within this. It's a hotel group. A cook had to pick the kid up every day at 3, and wait till a mother came home, the grandmother came home at 7. So needed that gap every day. The hotel, it was accommodation hotel, just said we can't do this anymore. You're not, you can't take those times up. So what actually happened was she resigned because she's going to put a kid first.
Yeah.
And the chef, who was actually head chef, and the husband resigned too. It's like, you know what, we can't deal with your values. And that's exactly what he said to me. How can a organization they say they have values for caring for their people, and they've just, thrown our family totally. And he is a chef, is a head chef, there's many jobs for him out there. So
yes, yeah. And people that, that's the thing about values, they have them posted on the wall or in their employment manual or on their website, but are they truly putting the actions and behaviors behind that? And something like, yeah, and look, a lot of it, which is fantastic, but when you have something like that, to actually put it back for them, because he could have quite easily resigned, and we hear this, but when you put it back to a value and going, I'm resigning, or whatever it might be, because that is not you living that value, wow, that would hit home.
Yeah, absolutely. And I felt for him. And so don't worry, I will help you.
Yes, I've got 1,000. I've got 1,000 jobs.
It's okay. You'll be in something tomorrow.
Yeah.
And you also talked about what clubs can do differently to retain high caliber managers. I'm going to bring it back to that rabbit hole of the board. The board has to demonstrate and live and breathe, a set of values. And they're the ones that approve all these values and go, yes, we'll do this. But then often you see the board going way off track. So, and that's where there are so many problems at the moment. As I said, there is a lot of managers through COVID fell over, mental health challenges, a lot. And I found, I'm really generalizing here, I found that the bigger club CEOs, I guess the stronger personality, obviously stronger personality CEOs, They really help these other managers go through this. But what's happened in the last 8 months is the bigger, stronger, those ones you think wouldn't fall over are the ones falling over.
Yeah.
And pressure from the boards. As I said before, we're losing managers because of how they're being treated. I mean, I certainly won't name any names, but I'm sure you know a number of these as well. But there's so many that you don't hear about. I hear about because they're ringing me going, I think I'm going to be unemployed soon. What do I do? So the mental health is, you know, look after, retain people by looking after their mental health and their well-being and who they are as a person and care
Yeah.
for them. There's look, you'll be pleased to know that there's a club in the Northern Rivers where the president of the club is all about values. It's a she, so those that know will know. She's all about values and caring for people and doing the right thing all of the time. Now, she's just been employed by Clubs New South Wales as a director of a club to launch a program to all clubs. They don't have to do it, but hopefully, I'd love that, boards have to do it. That she will roll out this program, which is all about training boards about aligning with strong values and how to treat your people and how to support and how to act well as a board aligned with values. So, I mean, she's just started, so I don't know if it's being advertised or whatever it is. I'm sure it will be soon. But what a great initiative, and thanks to Clubs New South Wales for jumping on that, and thanks to this beautiful director. She's just lovely.
Yeah. And she's still a club manager somewhere else as well.
No.
Oh, right. Oh, sorry. I thought you said she was a club manager in the Northern Rivers. No.
No, it's a club in the Northern Rivers that she's a president of.
Oh, right. Okay. Now they've made her the director of the.
She actually came from an education background, a school teacher type background, but she's been on the board and she's values based, and so hopefully that sort of program. Imagine putting that program into place where to be a board member you have to actually have done this mandatory training. But they can't do that. But
no,
it's a start. It's a start.
It is a start, and you know what? It may not change some that are on boards at the moment, but what it will do is show others that they may say, well, if you've got this in place, I'm now willing to put my hand up and go, I'll put my hand up to be on your board.
Yeah.
That's the way I see the change happening. It may not happen right away, but it will start to change.
It'd be great. There are so many great board members, so many great presidents, vice presidents, directors, treasurers. I mean, I see them all the time. That's all I deal with really is boards and then candidates as CEOs. But there are so many great ones. I'd like to actually go through and pinpoint, like put a tag on the really good ones and say, to the Northern Rivers president that's about to roll his hat, go to that one and get that one to wave the flag for you.
Yes. Yeah. Definitely.
One person on each board to, wave that values flag, then that would be great. But I mean, we're still a long way away, but it's a start, and I'm so happy.
Yeah, it is a start, which is absolutely wonderful. And that point about mental health, and I say that when I'm doing my training, is that during COVID, all the CEOs and senior management and then middle management were all looking down at that frontline team going, how can we help you? How can we support you? And not everyone turned around and said, well, how are you going? And I know, Jenny, you started a group during that time that, all the CEOs that I know and senior managers going, we were so fortunate that you did that. We were in that safe space. It's still there where people can share honestly how they're feeling, which is so important. But I even know with myself, when all the doors shut, I didn't know how to contact, and I didn't even think that if I sent somebody an email to their club that they would even be there to pick it up. My whole brain just went into this really dark space. But I had a couple of CEOs who rang me during that time and asked me how I was. And that was really lovely, because I would have thought, I'm just an accessory. But having them call, a couple of times during those, first few months, and then even that we felt like it was going on for that whole year plus, it was just so lovely. And I thought, this is what the community is all about the club
Yeah.
industry. We're there for each other. So, and I
Yeah.
think, that as you're saying now, a lot of them have carried that on their shoulders now for the last 5 years, that they're needing a bit of a break themselves. And
Yeah.
so, yeah.
Right. And then any bit of pressure, makes the volcano erupt. So
Yes,
that's very
yes.
difficult. Yeah, but in that COVID period, in this Facebook group where there's the 1,200 managers, we
Mm,
used to just run, it was called Friday afternoon drinks or Wednesday afternoon drinks. Now I don't drink, so, and nobody came there to drink, but we had a Zoom session of,
yes,
30, 40, 50 people just chatting about what they were doing that day, just literally being there and meeting each other. And then
yes.
people were introduced to each other. And it was
Mm,
such a great thing. And only like a couple of days ago, one of the CEOs said to me, you know what, the best thing that happened for our industry through that period was Friday afternoon drinks, even
yes,
though it wasn't drinks, it was
yes, yeah, yeah.
and then there would be get-togethers, trivia days, and things like this, just
Mm,
to managers just getting a release of some sort, And I still say, sometimes I put a shout out there, why don't you just tap another manager, not one of your friends that you usually talk to, but
yeah.
someone and just ask them how they're going, even now,
Mm,
because now
yes.
it's critical.
Yeah.
So
No,
yeah,
look, and I've heard the same from the club managers saying the same thing, having that opportunity to be in that group with you, Jenny, it just gave them that little bit of break, but it also gave them an opportunity to meet others.
yeah,
Because we're this wonderful industry, but I think you and I we are very fortunate because we go to all these different venues, we see all these different people, but not every club manager or duty manager has that ability. So when they were able to be in that group, they're meeting people that they can visit, they can bring to each other, they can share ideas, and as you said, just tapping each other on the shoulder, going, how are you? But also tapping them for some knowledge. We've got some very knowledgeable people in the industry. So why reinvent the wheel?
that's exactly right.
So it's good. All right. We've mentioned about your ethics, and it's so true, Jenny. You have got this very strong ethical approach to business and recruitment. In a highly competitive market, what advice would you give to both businesses and job seekers on maintaining integrity and finding the right fit rather than just filling a position quickly?
I think that fit thing, we had a chat about that fit thing
Mm,
being, just look at goals, dreams, aspirations, and care for people and look at values match. I think that's sort
yeah,
of I guess, the main message out there. And know your people and know them as individuals. I mean, I'm preaching to the converted, I'm sure, but maybe it's okay to just reiterate the importance of this. And I'll give an example of sort of caring and understanding each people and rewarding each person in your organization and the board understanding the CEO. I worked at a club many years ago, and the reward for all the team was a case of beer and a leg of ham at Christmas. Now, I'll never forget the message that this is. Now, I don't drink and I don't eat ham. So how effective was that reward to me?
mm.
And basically, the board just went, give them all a case of beer and a leg of ham. Like, what am I going to do with that? Firstly, I can't carry it because I'm so weak. But I made the same mistake too once. I had a candidate who got a job many years ago, CEO, well-known CEO. Um, and, to congratulate him, I sent him a bottle of some fancy whiskey or whatever.
Yeah.
And then his EA rang me and said, "Oh, I just got to tell you, he doesn't drink." I was like, "Oh, see, I did like
Yeah.
what a dumb gift to give someone, really dumb." And they say it's the thought that counts. Yeah, but it's not the thought of sending the bottle of whiskey. I should have thought to understand more about that
Yes.
person to what would
Yes.
make him feel special.
Mm.
And back then, I'm talking probably 20 years ago, this was.
Yes. Yeah.
Now I really, learn about people and make sure they're rewarded with something that
Mm.
they feel special about. And that should be with every staff member, every CEO, everything should be about the individual. What's going to drive this person?
Mm.
What's going to tell them I love them?
Yes, that I've actually heard you. I've listened and I care and I do love you. And because we look at that, for for just a side moment, for our loyalty of our members, it's the same thing. I look at that and I go, well, why are we sending, 80-year-old women a kayak, or, they live in a unit and they've got seriously, and like there's 6 washing machine, instead of looking at data. And I know data to some people is boring, but before we even came on to this recording, you were talking about the data you've just gathered from your latest survey, and it's drilling into that data. And I've been saying for 30 years, I'm being blue in the face. You've got all this information, really drive into it. And they are doing that a lot more than they used to, but it's making those people feel special. So if we do that for our members, then why aren't we doing it for our internal members, our internal
right.
customers?
Yeah, great point. Great point.
Yeah. So looking ahead, what are some of the emerging opportunities and challenges you foresee in the hospitality and gaming industry when it comes to leadership recruitment and talent management in the next 5 years?
Yeah, I think, when we mentioned before that they, what do I call it? A clump of managers.
It's better than a murder of crows.
Yeah, okay, we'll call it a gaggle. That's about a giggle of managers.
A giggle of managers.
There's going to be that's a big opportunity. That is a big opportunity. I think to answer this question, what do we need to do, or what is going to happen, and what's an opportunity in the next 5 years? It's all about that values, looking at people as individuals, looking at the opportunities, solving this crisis. Like, there was a chef crisis. There's still a bit of a chef crisis, but we've got, like, I use Abby from USOL to because I know you've met with them. That's the only reason I named her. She's brought in over 100 chefs from overseas, and they're in all the regional clubs. So the chef side of it's working. Well, there could be an answer. I wonder if she can bring in managers to manage clubs.
I was about to say, have you approached her?
I haven't, because really what she's been doing is chefs, restaurant managers, and then she looks at the mechanics and things like that. Anyway.
But she may not have even thought of it. There we are. Watch out, Abby. You're about to get a phone call.
Yeah. But that's been solved. But yeah, so the leadership of regional clubs is the greatest challenge, and I'm pretty determined to do something about that.
Yes,
and fast. I guess the more people that try and deal with it together, the slower it is. So
yes,
I'd love a small group of people to, somehow move forward on that. So yeah. Anyway, don't know if that answers the question.
I don't know. All Jenny's wanting to do now, audiences, get off this podcast.
Not true. Never. I could spend a year talking to you, or.
Your mind's going, oh, I'm going to contact Abby. This is a great idea.
Yeah, that is true.
And as you get older, audience, if you don't write it down, you'll forget it in the next 5 minutes. Oh, what were we going to say?
No, I've got that. And that one was like I can actually see a light bulb behind my eyes. Hey, that could be.
Yeah. And, sometimes it's just having a conversation like this that something comes out like that, which is fantastic. Yeah. All right. Our last question. Is there anything that I haven't asked that you would like to share? How do my listeners connect with you to either advertise or apply for a role, Jenny?
Right. Well, there's always the whitenow.com.au. That's where my contact details are.
Yes.
All my ads go on the club job board, which there's a link to on that website. I guess you always focus back to the
website.
But you can just contact me there, and register for further surveys. So, like with the 130 or so clubs, part of that club salary survey that was just sent out yesterday. Thanks to them. I'd like to say thanks to them. I'd like to say thank you to all the managers involved in the buddy program that we run. I'm just about to link another 3 managers to 3 seasoned CEOs. And I guess something else I just probably want to talk about is looking after mental health of others still, and reaching out when you don't, everyone's gone back into their day-to-day routine and forgetting to reach out. If you're not if you're a senior manager or CEO and you're not in the club Facebook group, are you able to put a link up?
Yes, I will.
So you'll see the link here.
And what's the name of the group?
It's called it's long, NSW, Vic, ACT, ampersand Queensland Club Managers Support and Share Group. I know it's long. It used to be just be New South Wales, then Queensland wanted to be involved, then Victoria wanted, and then ACT. So I showed it, but it's 1,200 plus executive managers and CEOs in there.
So it was NSW, Vic, ACT,
ampersand QLD,
and then
Club Managers Support and Share Group. I can send you a link to that.
Yes, that might be good.
It's a private Facebook group, so you sort of can't see it. And there's, you have to sort of prove who you are to come into the group.
Naturally.
There's no suppliers, there's no associations. No. It's literally, I'm the only person that's not a club manager, but I was, so that's okay.
And you are the binding glue to it all. I have thoroughly enjoyed our conversation. As you said, Jenny, we've been around for a long time in this industry. We love the industry dearly, and I think that's what, our values are driven by what we do, our integrity, but the people that we know, that it is an industry that is so important for everyone in our beautiful country. And, whether it is regional or city, a club always has its doors open. It is always safe and secure, no matter who you are, where you come from, what you look like, how old. It is always there for you. It is so important.
Absolutely. It's my industry, but what industry you're in? I'm in the club industry. That's the only answer I have ever given for 30 plus years, So anyway, thank you so much. You're a champion. A lot of that values stuff and that culture stuff is your wheelhouse. So, I really do encourage people to talk to you about that as well. It's not something I deliver any training in culture or values. It's not, I'm specifically looking at, well, I do a bunch of things, but that's not my wheelhouse. So I encourage them to go to you, Michelle. So thank you very much for today. Lovely to catch up again. Same time next year?
Yes, maybe. Yes, definitely, if not before. Thanks, Jenny. Thank you so much for joining me on this week's podcast. I do hope there was some moments of aha, insights, tips, and some action steps for you to take in your business or organization. I love being in this industry. So the more that you can get the word out about this podcast, because it really is an honor and a privilege to have so many amazing guests on the podcast, that we need to get the word out there. So please share. A review would be wonderful. And if you'd like to reach out and learn more about what I do and my signature program for the leadership development middle management movement, please have a look at the website, www.michellepascoe.com. Take care, everyone. Bye.